I know you won't do it, but I would like to see you hit a line of cocaine. No, really.
You just spit your drink
Really?
out.
It's probably a little too down. It's probably a little too down for video though, because you just look like you're in a tunnel.
Flat build. Isn't this what they do?
Please don't do that.
How do I, like, this is pretty form fitted. Like, it came out of the box like this. I love the quality. I'm like, I'm gonna find out whose blanks they're using. But how do I wear it sideways? I can't like kick it sideways.
You just kick it sideways.
No.
Well, that means it's too tight.
No, it feels like it's perfect.
What's on the back? Is it a form fit?
No,
Oh,
it's a snapback.
So yeah,
I don't know whose blank they're using at Redcon 1. What the hell has gone? What has happened here?
What did you do?
What is going on? I'm all caught up.
I mean, I keep mine a little loose. One hand fits in there.
Why is that? Because you keep cigarettes up in there or something?
I don't know. I just don't want it tight on my head.
Yeah,
That's
what I thought.
Is that where you keep your condoms? You found a maker's mark in here?
It's in China, made in China.
They're fucking really nice blanks, whoever is making them. When you
Nobody makes hats in the United States anymore.
there's a few companies. There are. I've run into them at SHOT Show. They were there actually assembling hats, like actually making the panels and stuff. But the way they're embroidering these, the embroidery on them is real. It's like puffy embroidery. Mm-hmm. It's nice. You order, I don't know how much I ordered from Redcon, and they're like, you can pick this free thing, and you can pick different supplements or a hat, and I just got the hat because it was red and black, and I figured one of the boys will wear it or something. What episode is this? 90.
We're not recording yet, are we? Did we already start recording?
Pulling the Thread podcast,
97?
episode 96.
That's such horseshit. We were almost at 100 last week.
We're going to podcast to one pre-workout and one pre-workout only this episode.
You think you can just do this episode with just one? How many of you have... No. How many of you already had? Today.
2.
So that's Trace? Right there?
Yeah, but the day started like half a day ago.
Not when we're talking about pre-workouts.
Well,
I don't believe.
I'm immune to
that's
them.
what I'm saying. I don't believe people understand how much stimulants you are on. You know what I would really like to see? This is no shit. I know you won't do it. But I would like to see you hit a line of cocaine. No, really.
You just spit your drink out.
Really, I would like to see you do a line of cocaine.
If I could get a pre-workout that said with all natural cocaine, I would probably try that.
Because I don't think that we would get the thing that we would think we would get from cocaine with John. I think he would just be like, "I'm gonna take a nap."
Yeah.
I feel like if he had cocaine, I feel like if John had cocaine, that he would still get like some pre-workout and put it in there and mix it up, right? Because he's like, this doesn't have enough. Doesn't have enough punch.
Can you drink cocaine and get the same effect as snorting it?
I would assume.
Why are we asking drug-free over there?
I mean, it even says it on it. Well, your forehead says drug-free, right?
Yeah.
Why aren't we asking?
You've never tried any.
He has no idea.
Illicit drugs.
NyQuil is about as heavy as I've ever gone.
But you know drug guys.
I know everything about drugs.
Because you're a white supremacist. I mean, white supremacists always have tattoos.
What's funny about that is I've actually... I don't know if you can say this on a podcast.
Well, you're about to say it. You might want to not say whatever it is.
When I was 11, I tied up for a guy to shoot heroin, but he was a skinhead, like a racist skinhead. He's dead now, so I can talk about it.
You could talk about it anyways.
Yeah.
Nobody knows who he is.
Nobody knows who he is, and you know.
He was a whack job.
Well, yeah, he had an 11-year-old tying him up to do heroin.
Yeah. We're not going to show these on the video here, but what do you think of these? Because they're for the party only.
Ooh,
I think this is the best part.
The ass to mouth, the ATM.
The ATM part. Have we?
Similar logo.
But I mean, Christmas lights. Have we done that before?
That's not Christmas lights. That's splatter print.
Well, that looks like a Christmas light to me.
It's not.
The other one right there, Christmas light.
It's not. It's not Christmas.
And those are LED Christmas lights because they're smaller. So.
Okay, well, it is Christmas time. Christmas time is arising.
John hates this.
I do hate that. I hate Crocs. I hate gum chewing. I'm just kind of become immune to it. I actually ban people. They're like, your shoes sound like Crocs. Banned.
I've only seen one person wear Crocs in front of you that you've never said anything about.
Who was it?
I don't want to say because I'll give them away.
What do you mean you'll give them away? What is he gonna ban them?
They were on this podcast.
Were they?
Uh-huh.
Oh, it was Z.
Z's
Instructor Z.
Crocs.
Yeah.
He's on the range full kit, but Crocs.
Z can choke you out without touching you. You just wake up from being unconscious. So
We're podcasting? Oh, we're already started.
So the United States launched some United States missiles into Russia.
Something like that, yeah. Kind of.
Does that escalate? Are we complicit in that action?
As in the United States. I mean, let's not beat around the bush. Like the reality is, we were complicit the minute we started sending advanced weapon systems to Ukraine.
So are we in World War III?
No.
No.
Is
my mic down or my ears down?
Your ears probably.
No, we're not in World War III.
So what do you think about that hypersonic missile that Russia fucking dropped a few of into Ukraine?
Oh, the ICBM.
Yeah.
Or it's a mid-range ICBM that they have. Here's
do you
the
think
thing.
anybody was surprised? They didn't know it was coming, apparently, right?
No, they knew.
They knew?
Yeah, the Russians here. This is the thing that I don't think people understand how. Whether it is because Russia does not have the capability to fight World War III, or Russia just doesn't want to start World War III. They called us. They literally called us and said, we're getting ready to launch an ICBM into Ukraine. That's why we closed the embassy. We closed the embassy and sent everybody home because we're like, oh, the Russians are going to... And you know what we didn't do? You know what the United States of America didn't do?
Tell Ukraine.
We didn't tell Ukraine. We didn't tell Ukraine that we knew they were going to fire an ICBM at them.
Interesting.
If you think about from a warfare standpoint, Russia's equipment has not operated as advertised, right? So far none of their tanks, none of their stuff is operating as advertised. Now, contrary to popular opinion, in the region that they're fighting in, the Russians keep taking ground. Yes, the Ukrainians did an end run in there in Kursk, but that's just a good tactical decision because your outside edges are going to be your weak points anyways, right?
Have you heard it said that the missile struck within the Ukraine and actually killed... Do I have this backwards? North Korea had a bunch of generals, high-ranking generals, killed by the missile system that we fired. You had heard that?
Yeah.
And it was some command center.
But again, here's the problem with the Ukrainian war. The problem with the Ukrainian war is the Ukrainians are just as, not Ukrainians in general, but the Ukrainian government is just as much liars as the Russian government.
Well, they're
so
super
you don't
corrupt.
when they say, oh yeah, we fired a missile and we hit this tactical strategic target. It's not necessarily any more true than when Russia fires a missile at Ukraine and says, we hit this strategic target, and then the Ukrainians are showing a school bus on fire.
So what was hit inside Ukraine, do we know?
With the ICBMs?
They had 4 entry vehicles with it or something?
They haven't said. They haven't said what was hit. But going back to the equipment aspect of it, because the reason why this is a big deal, the reason why people are saying this is a big deal, is because for the ICBM type missiles, we've never put conventional munitions in those. It's always been nuclear weapons, right? It's because why would you put a conventional weapon in something that you want to shoot around the world?
But now you have a delivery system that can launch inside the United States.
Now you have this delivery system
that cannot be shot down, perhaps.
Well, it can. It can.
But their hypersonic one, I thought it can't even be tracked.
That's not. None of that's true. None of that's true. You have to remember, when Russia and China are waving the flags of hypersonic missiles, and they're like, "Yay, we have a!" and everybody's like, "Oh my God, China!" We had hypersonic missiles in the 50s. in the 50s. This is not it's not a new technology. It's not, none of this is groundbreaking as far as weapon systems go. And yes, we can shoot them down. That's why ICBMs have multiple reentry vehicles. So when they open up and drop their little flowers of death, they're not all nuclear weapons. Some of them are just decoys to get us to shoot down what we can. So
why not just make them all nuclear weapons? If that thing's putting out 12 payloads that are going to go different places,
because you want them to waste. You want me to waste resources on trying to take out things that aren't real.
Why not just make them all real? I mean,
because it's expensive. I mean, the reality is it's expensive. It's why the Russian the Russian tanks are getting hit with fucking anti-armor weapons and sand is falling out of them. Because it's just expensive.
I know that you would have countries that would put submarines off the coast of, New York or California. And the talking points, as far as I can remember, for the last 20, 30 years, oh my God, submarine near the United States. Now they have the capability to put nukes inside of the United States. Well, they've always had that capability with ICBMs, and clearly now they have demonstrated that their ICBM system does work. Doesn't Russia have ICBMs that can hit continental United States?
So Russia, China, and I'm sure a sprinkling of other countries have...
Israel.
No. Not Israel. They have nuclear weapons. But Russia, China, the United States have intercontinental ballistic missiles, which means we can touch anything in the world with a nuclear weapon that's launched from the United States.
And apparently a non-nuclear weapon as well.
Well, again, it's just one of those things that I don't think when we think about ICBMs, I don't think anybody in the Department of Defense was like, it'd be really cool is if we could take this multi-million-dollar weapon.
But I mean, what do they care? It's not their money.
Yeah, but put something on it that's not as lethal as a nuclear weapon, right?
You could put propaganda flyers on it.
The deterrent, yeah, you could. The deterrent is not the deterrent is not the missile. Well, I mean, the missile is the deterrent.
But it used to be world ending.
It's the nuclear. Yeah, we want nuclear weapons because even still, let's say Russia launched an ICBM that had 10 MIRVs in it, 10 reentry vehicles, and they all had whatever HE type explosive that they could put in that thing to make it non-nuclear,
which is what they did apparently,
and fire it at the United States. You would be like, that's like the Japanese sending fucking thousands of balloons over here with TNT. Shit would be blowing up in the woods, and you'd be like, what the fuck? It wouldn't make any sense, right? It wouldn't make any sense for them to do that. Now, in Ukraine, I think
it would wake up all the U.S. citizens.
But why would you want to do that? Again, that's the bombing of Pearl Harbor. Why would you want to poke? Why would you want to start the thing that you know is going to end you?
So what do you think their thought was with the bombing of Pearl Harbor? They didn't think we could touch them with an atom bomb?
Well, the atom bombs didn't exist when Pearl Harbor happened.
Right, but shortly thereafter.
Their thought, the Japanese, the Imperial Navy, or not the Imperial Navy, because Yamamoto, he believed that it was a problem. But the powers that be believed that they could strike the United States hard enough where we would sue for peace and the Japanese would be able to keep all the things that they had already taken over, right? Burma, Vietnam, Korea, China, that they would be able to sue for peace. They would keep everything and we wouldn't get into the war. But you can only poke a bear so much before he's going to fight back. Russia knows that it cannot go toe to toe with the United States. We have more and better of everything. So they know that. So he doesn't want to poke us. But when you think about him using the ICBM, when you think about him using the ICBM in Ukraine, it makes fucking sense. It makes 100% sense because it does two things. One, it lets the world know, or NATO, more NATO than anything, because NATO's, if you kind of pay attention, NATO is the one that is really uppity about going to war with Russia. It lets NATO know that none of those NATO countries are not touchable conventionally. And two, the most important thing, it takes out all the variables, right? Meaning Russia has a whole bunch of variables that are problems. They have variables with the training that they do for their regular forces. They have variables that they have with their conscript forces. They have variables with their fucking tanks and shit not being very good. So there's all these variables. So if you're Putin and you're like, attack fucking whatever town in Ukraine, you have all these fucking you have all these variables and these things that could turn that into a total collapse. But if you just have one dude, or really two dudes, at the fucking launch site, and all they have to do is turn a key and the fucking thing goes up and flies over and drops 10 MIRVs all over fucking Ukraine, you take all those variables out, right? There's what can Ukraine do about it? Because now I can, basically what Russia did there is we authorized Ukraine to use long-range precision munitions within the Soviet, or within Russia, right? Russia basically just said, we got the same shit, but ours
are better.
Or we'll hit 10 targets, yours will only hit 1.
And we don't have to have the United States give them to us.
So I think that's kind of what they were doing. And then the other thing is, too, you know, we have crossed Putin's nuclear line twice. There's going to be a point. I think there's going to be a point.
You think he's just biding his time and not killing a bunch of U.S. citizens and other people in hopes, just waiting for Trump to get back in?
Well, I don't think, here's the issue. I do not believe, outside of a failed presidency like Joe Biden right now, in the next 70 some odd days, I do not believe that Americans within the United States of America have anything to fear from Putin. I don't think they have anything to fear from Putin. Now, the NATO countries are all easily strikeable. So all this saber rattling and all this fucking, all you're doing is jeopardizing your citizens. For what? For what purpose?
Who is?
Germany, Poland, France. All they're doing is jeopardizing their own citizens. For what specific purpose? To create a weak Russia? Who knows?
Listening to Bears guy Bob this morning, right? We did a podcast with Bug Out Bob, and he said it's weird that on the U.S. side this time is Germany, and Poland, whose percentage rate of men for their population is only 20%. Only 20% of their population is men in Poland, apparently. And he said they're so eager to go to war. Like they're like, yeah, let's go to war with Russia. Like, did you guys not learn last fucking time, the last World War? Like, your whole country was gone. Like, I heard Bob say, he said, that's one of the only places where there was actual footage of the country being bombed, actual footage of the decimation.
Poland is crazy. When you think about Poland as a country, it's crazier than you think. Like, the reality is, the Germans took Poland, the Russians took Poland, then the Germans took more of Poland away from the Russians, and then the Russians came and took Poland. Like,
that whole place, like all the camps started with Poland. Like all of the the ghettos and all of that stuff, that was Poland originally. Yeah. Like, that was the focus.
So I don't know. First off, Germany doesn't win wars. And Poland, again.
Well, Germany is very, very neutered now compared to what they were.
You're smashed. You're smashed between a couple of powers. I get what they're doing. I mean, the reality is, if you're a former Soviet Union bloc country, and you have what appears to be Putin trying to establish the Soviet Union again, you've got to rattle. You have to rattle your sabers as hard as you can. So he would think twice about it, right? But the problem is, it's just escalating us into something that could really get out of hand really quick.
Canada Prepper, Canada Dry Prepper, had a dude on who I believe he was the Secretary of Defense for Ronald Reagan. And he was saying, the United States is playing a game against Russia right now, the deep state right now, that we don't want to be in. We should leave Russia alone Ukraine is highly corrupt. We've never gave a shit about Ukraine before. It's never like his take on the whole thing is that they are just trying to create this war and do enough damage so that when Trump does get in, the war has already started and he cannot turn it back at that point, and so that they can ride it out and make all of their money. He said a lot of other things, but that was kind of the gist of it.
You do what politicians, what most people don't understand. So including, and I'm going to throw Trump in this too. You do a disservice. You do a disservice to your troops, whether that's Ukrainian troops, Russian. You do a disservice to troops in general when you talk about a peace deal. Anytime you talk about a peace deal, and especially a peace deal that is future predicted, right? So what we've done is we've automatically, everybody automatically assumes, which is crazy when you think about it.
This is going to end.
When Trump becomes president, when Trump actually takes office, that he's going to negotiate a peace deal with Putin and Zelensky, and the war is going to end. Okay? So you have these two sides, the Russians and the Ukrainians, because there's a possibility that they're going to have to come to the table and discuss peace options. Both sides are going to fight extra harder than they were fighting to try and gain the upper hand for those talks. And so that's what's going on.
Do you think Zelensky makes it out of this alive either way?
Oh, fuck yeah.
Yeah?
He's going to be, we'll see Zelensky boogie boarding in Florida, 2 years from now. Yeah, he's going to make it out alive. Now, if I wouldn't place any bets on how long Zelensky's going to be alive. I wouldn't place any bets on it, because the one thing that Russians are very good at least their spy agencies.
So you think uranium tipped umbrella
is they're very patient, and they will, especially if this thing all ends and Putin gets to stay the figurehead for Russia after this is over and doesn't get cooed by his own czars.
How old is he? 80, right?
He's old. He's up there, but
he looks fucking good for his age.
He's up there, but he's also already been elected for life. So,
elected for life?
Yeah. They voted and elected him for life.
Who did?
The Russian people.
Yeah, just like this president in Mexico. They killed 46 fucking candidates to get her there.
Well,
okay.
He's elected for life, right? And so
I think we're probably better off as the United States. We're probably better off having Putin as president for life.
Well, that's the one thing that a lot of people don't. That's the one thing that a lot of people don't understand about geopolitics is when you think of Gaddafi, or you think of Saddam Hussein, or you think of any of like the Ayatollah in Iran. Okay.
Didn't you just name all people that the CIA overthrew
or put into power, except for
killed,
except for the Ayatollah? But here's the thing that people don't understand. When you take a guy like Saddam Hussein, right? He creates stabilization in his country through fear. But he is a guy that we always knew what he was going to do, right? We knew what his influences were. We knew what he was going to do. And so that created a stabilization within that region. When you pull these dudes out, now you have countries in the world where we have no fucking clue what they're going to do. We don't have any idea how their politics are going to play out. We don't have any idea of what kind of warfare is going to come out of it. We don't have any idea what Iraq is going to look like in 10 years. We have no idea what Libya is going to look like in 10 years. No clue whatsoever. So these are now, they went from stable adversaries to complete wild cards, right? The next World Trade Center bombing can come from Libya, or it could come from Iraq. It could come.
Well, I mean, look at the slavery that's in Iraq right now.
Yeah,
not Iraq, but Libya.
Yeah. I don't know what we're talking about. I blacked out.
Russia.
I know we were talking about Russia, but
Putin.
Again, especially if he's the man when this is over, this peace deal is over. I would believe that Zelensky's going to get an umbrella to the leg or something, that they would still come after him. And
so
kill
once
him
Zelensky is no longer, he flees Ukraine during the end of this or whatever, what does Ukraine look like at that point? What's our interest in Ukraine? All the biolabs and all the money laundering?
Well, that was always what it was the ability to money launder. So we went from from the Obama administration. Now people don't understand. People don't remember this because people have a short memory. During the Obama administration, the Obamas were laundering regular money through Ukraine. They were using Ukraine to launder money to become rich. The war broke out. When the war broke out, what the Democratic establishment knew is they had already set up all these shell corporations to launder money. Now they could do it with billions of dollars instead of millions of dollars, and that's all it is. The war is basically a shell game for the ultra rich to move money from one place, to move money from the middle class to the rich.
This has always been a plan for Russia to be the next boogeyman, right?
The reality is Russia's always been the boogeyman.
Like at the end of World War II, they said, a lot of the generals, it was said that we should go ahead and take care of Russia at the same time. Because they're weak and we have all of our equipment and everything here, we could just go ahead and end Russia also, because Russia is going to be the next power.
Well, yeah,
right?
The threat was communism. And
so
if you think about
with that, if you fast forward the Obama administration, they started that fabrication of the Russian collusion shit. That was Obama's crew.
Yeah.
So that when Trump
Hillary
did take power, from Hillary, but by direction of Obama. And so they start that whole collusion thing. Trump comes into power, and he cannot have peace with Russia, and Russia has to kind of remain in limbo, right? He can't just go have talks with Putin because of the whole collusion bullshit and all the trials and everything. And if he went and ended that, they would say, see, he is friends with Russia.
But you know what didn't happen?
War and Ukraine invasion.
Yeah, while Trump was president, no borderlines were crossed by the Russians while Trump was president. So,
and when you hear Putin talk about this, right, it's the same thing as the Cuban Missile Crisis, right? You have NATO is encroaching on his territory. Missiles are being put on his border, just like if they were in Mexico. And then he also states, or some of his people state, Nazis, original heritage Nazis from Germany, in power in Ukraine. Ukraine was originally part of Russia during USSR or whatever, and they were persecuting. They set up their own court systems, and they were actually persecuting and going after actual fucking Russian people with that lineage.
Again, there are no Nazis.
Sure there are.
No, there are no Nazis. The Nazi. So that
not Nazi as our mass media uses it currently, but direct lineage bloodlines of they're all through Argentina. There's whole
there's people in Argentina, but remember, just again, what you're doing is you're allowing people who don't understand the nuances of the world to create an argument. Nazism was a political party. It doesn't exist. We destroyed it. So can you say that there are can you say that there are former Nazis in Argentina? Yes, there's no Nazi political party. You can't go down to Argentina and vote for Nazis.
You don't think
because it doesn't exist.
You don't think they just put on a different uniform?
Oh yeah, a lot of them put on different uniforms. You had SS guys that were fighting for the French. Yes, people put on different uniforms, but that again, it's a political party that doesn't exist. So, are there skinheads that pretend to be Nazis? Yes, but they have no real affiliation or connection to anything that had to do with Nazis of World War II.
Okay, understood. But the way I see it,
all they're doing is, the reality is, if you see anybody that's walking around with a fucking Nazi with a Nazi flag or the fucking any of that shit, they're just cosplaying. Okay. It's not real.
Understood. You do not think that direct lineage grandchildren, great-grandchildren of those people...
It's not a heritage. It's not a bloodline. There's no such thing. It was made... Nazis, as a thing, was made up by Adolf Hitler. There's no bloodline. There's actually...
So like Israel.
That's different. That's a bloodline.
Is it different? Because
It's
the
100%.
Israelites, no, people that live in Israel
It's 100%
are not the bloodline.
It's 100% different because it's the Jewish faith. They are Jews.
No,
they are.
There's a shitload of people in Israel that are not Jews.
They are. Anybody who's not a Jew. Anybody who's not a Jew in Israel is not an Israelite. They're not Israelites. Only Jews are Israelites. So that's different. That's a bloodline. So they can claim whatever they're, but Nazism is not a bloodline.
So what do you think happens now when France and Germany say they're committing troops?
It depends. I think it just depends on what they mean by committing troops.
North Korea says 100,000.
If they declare war on Russia, like if France and Germany or Poland, if they declare war on Russia, I think Russia has no choice but to use nuclear weapons. They don't have the capability to fight conventional.
One nuclear weapon?
I don't. If we are fucking lucky. The reality is, if we are fucking lucky, one.
You don't think this will be a situation like Nagasaki and Hiroshima where they launch some nukes and like, okay.
No, and the reason why is because when Nagasaki and Hiroshima happened, we were the only ones with nuclear weapons. So no, if Japan had a nuclear weapon that they were like, we're not going to use because it's too horrific, and then we used ours, they would have definitely used theirs. So what happens if Russia uses a tactical nuclear weapon to stop the invasion of their country by French and German soldiers?
And they use that where? In Ukraine?
I don't know. You would use it wherever troops are being massed, right? So that could be in France.
Apparently there's a lot of troops being massed right now.
That could be in France. That could be in Germany. It depends on where your troops are being massed. We've already crossed the line. There are Ukrainian troops within Russia. So there are Ukrainian troops inside of Russia territory right now. Russia has already said that it would use nuclear weapons to defend its homeland. So by that statement, if Russia used a tactical nuclear weapon right now to fucking hit Kursk, which is within Russian borders, NATO would not have a fucking leg to stand on to fucking respond to that. So what do we do? I don't know. There are some world leaders out there. We've elected some very weak and unstable world leaders around the world.
Who?
The fucking president of France. We've elected some very weak and unstable.
Well, none of those presidents are from those countries either, right?
I don't know. I don't know if he's from France or not. But what I'm saying is we've elected a bunch of woke, squirrely leaders that they don't care for human life. So who cares if nuclear weapons get used?
From their perspective.
From their
on
perspective,
other people.
yeah. But the issue is, who will have the wherewithal? I hate to say this. I mean, I hate to say this out loud, but I think that if nuclear weapons were exchanged in Europe, and there was a point where the war machine, the Department of Defense, was like, we have to respond in kind, I feel like Trump would say no.
I agree.
I feel like Trump would say it has to end somewhere.
On the other hand,
let's end it here.
Trump has not addressed any of this going on in the last few days here. You have not heard Trump say anything about the ICBM being used. You've not heard Trump say anything about those long-range rocket systems that have hit into Russia. You've not heard anything publicly come out of Trump's mouth. You've heard other people say stuff.
Yeah.
But nothing from Trump. Why do you think that is?
Because he has an agenda. And here's the thing. Sorry, Ukraine.
I feel like he's probably talking to...
No, sorry, Ukraine, but Ukraine is a sideshow. For what Trump's agenda is?
What is it?
To dismantle the corrupt government of the United States. To dismantle that machine. And for what his agenda is, here's the reality. The reality is The dismantling of the corrupt machine that the Democratic Party has established, the dismantling of that, and re-Americanizing it, instead of China-izing it like they have done, re-Americanizing it and reinvesting in America is better for the entire world.
What do you think about all the people crying right now over the tariffs, right? Walmart's like, oh my God, we're going to have to raise all the prices. Guys, I feel I am going to be affected hugely by this because of the cost of everything. It's going to affect me negatively, but for America to revitalize and for America to bring industry back home, that has to happen. It's going to happen. And the big screech right now is, the working poor and children and low income. Well, I hear what you're saying.
Do you know how you fix low income, the working poor? You know how you fix
Yeah, you
that?
go to fucking work.
No. See, what has happened is the liberalization of the United States has allowed companies and manufacturers to make it more profitable for them to push everything offshore. It's why there are no real paying jobs in Detroit anymore. It's why you can't get a bolt of fucking material that's made in the United States anymore.
No, we do. They're very expensive.
Because everything had to be pushed offshore.
Yeah, our prices since COVID have doubled on our materials. Everything coming in the bill, all of our thread, all of our Cordura, most of our stuff is all U.S. made, right? The stuff that we manufacture out of is U.S. made. All of our plastic hardware, U.S. made. But it's doubled in price. And a lot of times we just I can't get Coyote Cordura right now. Makes no fucking sense. Maybe because the push, we're not doing desert shit, right? So the Coyote, they've discontinued arid. Like we did the math the other night. I have to buy 5,000 yards to get them to get multicam to authorize a run through the mill, the one mill that makes multicam. I have to buy 5,000 yards. That's $90,000 for something that I'm going to use 200 yards of, because we're not fighting in the desert.
Right. Anyways, but that's the key is, yes.
But what this would do, it would affect all of my competition. Are they really even competition? The bigger companies that are doing all offshore manufacturing, right? All of your nylon tactical gear that you can order off of Amazon. Many of our competitors, they all have other companies, right? LBX, London Bridge's offshore company. Grey Ghost, Tactical Tailors offshore. Shellback used to be TAG's offshore company. Blackhawk was the sister kind of offshore company to Eagle. They weren't together, but they're all owned by ATK. That's going to affect them if all their prices get a 30% tariff on them while I'm U.S. manufactured. That kind of puts us on an more equal footing.
And that's the point.
Yes.
That is the point. The point is to make it so you can manufacture shoes in the United States. The point is to make it so you can manufacture phones in the United States.
Pants you're wearing are manufactured in the United States.
Are they?
These pants I'm wearing, Kuhl, Kuhl, manufactured in the United States.
I thought they were Sweden or...
Nope, they're in the United States.
Are you sure?
I'm sure.
100%?
Yeah, I heard Mike Glover say it. Mike's been there, yeah.
Anyway, so, but again, that's the thing. To be able to create an environment where everybody's on an equal foot. Because when people are like, oh my God, shit at Walmart's going to be more expensive. Well, yes, shit at Walmart will be more expensive. But if you are talking about a living wage, that's how you get a living wage. You get a living wage by creating jobs within the United States, not McDonald's.
When's the last time you ate avocado?
I don't. Last week, maybe.
Does it taste different to you? Does it seem different from if you go back 5 years ago, 10 years ago?
No, I don't.
Every time I get an avocado, it doesn't taste the same, right? I didn't get COVID where my taste changed or I didn't smell shit. But every time I eat avocado, it's just not as good. Mm-hmm. The United States doesn't get avocados from the United States. They cut down all of those fucking orchards, especially through California where they were growing avocado over the light rail system, right? They cut all those fucking orchards down. All those ones that used to be growing on the hills through Fallbrook and Rainbow and all that, cut them all down.
Right, because of water.
Yeah, because they cut off the water.
Right,
the state cut the water off to those farms.
And you know what's...
But you know where all the avocados are coming from? They're coming from cartels. They're coming from fucking across the border.
Yeah. You know what's funny about that? This is why your politician. This is why you should really not. Shouldn't vote the way you vote. You need to oust your politicians. The funny thing about the avocado things, the avocado trees, right, in California, there in Fallbrook.
They cut them down and painted them white. You can see them all. They painted them with something so they won't resprout.
But the funny thing about that is California spent tons and tons of taxpayer money to get those avocado groves on those hills because you couldn't grow anything on those hills. Yep. And it's California government that killed all those things.
And a lot of places,
taxpayer money.
a lot of places where avocados will grow, oranges also grow. You see them go hand in hand. When you look at a fertilizer, it's a citrus/avocado fertilizer. It's the same places will grow both. You would see driving through those areas, one side of the street had oranges, one side had avocados. They're both gone.
Yeah.
They don't exist any longer.
Because your politicians suck in California.
It's bizarre. And speaking of water, they cut the water off, right? There's a lot of states. I'm always surprised when people are like, you hear it all the time. Hey, what's the first thing I should do on my homestead? And what do I always say? Water. Water, for the most part, is free when your water runs, right? You can take city water and put it in buckets or water cubes or containers, IBC totes, whatever. For the most part, though, it's free. It's the cheapest thing that you buy. We generally don't think about water until your asshole kid leaves the fucking the hose running for 4 or 5 days, right? You feel that water bill because it's greater than everything else. But compared to electricity, water is very inexpensive, especially in big cities, right?
Yeah.
It was water and trash pickup were all the same. It was San Diego gas and electric, and then you had water and trash or whatever. And that bill was always very minuscule. And I tell people that. And I'm saying this because we just had an incident happen here a few days ago. We had 2 trucks collide a couple thousand feet up the road here. We didn't hear it. We didn't see it. But it wiped out. The water treatment plant is on the other side of the gas station over here. And it wiped out. The main line comes under the road. And for some reason, it's above the road, right? They have it on these piers. And I think it's a 10-inch cast iron water pipe that comes in there, and it was put there in 1964. That's how old that water treatment plant is, and it wiped out 120 feet of that. So all the water is out to the town. There's been no water for 2 days, and I think there's 5 big water towers, but that water ran out overnight. The incident happened about 8 o'clock at night, I think, and by the next morning, all the water was out to town. And people are always talking about, and this is what makes me think this, because of the water, and you see people, we live pretty rural out here, and there's half a dozen times every year where the water's out for a day or two over broken pipes or froze pipes, because it's a very old infrastructure system. The power goes out here, and you're without power for 2-3 days. We were without power in Cedar Lakes for 9 days a few years ago. And it's always amazing that people are surprised by this, that they're, oh my God, what am I going to do? We literally saw people like, I have elderly people, or I have a disabled child. Can somebody bring water? We're going to die. Like people were literally saying this. And there's many trucks and trailers handing out flats of water at the old closed down Walmart here, just giving them out. All you got to do is drive through there. Here's a flat of water. Here's a flat of water. And you can go buy it at Walmart locally for $5. You can buy water, you can buy bottles of water, whatever. But people are acting like they're going to die. And it surprises me every time I say, when people ask, what's the first thing to do on a homestead? I'm like, save water. What's the first thing I should do as a prepper? Put stuff that you normally have in buckets, right? Seal them up. Put rice, pasta, beans. Put water, fill containers. The bigger the volume of the container, the less it costs per gallon to store it. And the question is always, oh, are you allowed to do that? Isn't it illegal? And I'm like, why the fuck would it be illegal to capture water? But in like places like Colorado, it is illegal for you to capture more than 50 gallons of rainwater.
It's illegal in California.
It's illegal in California in some places, which is weird because you're allowed to have a fucking swimming pool. Mm-hmm. So what sense does that make? You know why? Because you didn't divert your free water off your roof to fill your swimming pool.
Right.
You filled your swimming pool with the money that you paid for and you paid tax for. Mm-hmm. That's what it's all about. It's about somebody, and they're not after the guy who's taking his gutter and cutting it into his garage to fill a 1,000-gallon tank and then piping it out. And the outside, it seamlessly looks like water is coming when it rains. If anybody looked, water's still coming out that spout because that's the overflow from the inside, but you don't see it on the back of the pipe. They say this thing is illegal, and 99% of the fucking sheep will just comply with it.
Well, it's an infrastructure thing, right? The infrastructure is set up where if you wanted to capture 1,000 gallons of water in your garage, you're talking about an infrastructure setup that most people don't even have the comprehension to understand how they're doing it. So again, if you don't know how to make cookies, you ain't getting no cookies. That's just all it is.
Yeah, it's illegal for you to make cookies, but you can go buy as many cookies as you want.
But that's all it is. And then it becomes it's a convenience thing, right? Everything the way you get anybody to do anything is you make it convenient. For example, let's talk about EV cars. You know, the U.S. federal government under the tutelage of Pete Buttigieg spent $8 billion.
Do you know how many stations they made?
7.
I heard 8.
$8 billion, and they built 7 or 8 stations, right? Now, if Pete Buttigieg wasn't incompetent and the people under him weren't stealing all the money...
Oh, I think it's worse than that. I don't think it's that he's incompetent.
No, I believe Buttigieg
I think he was capable. I think he was just corrupt.
I believe for this particular boondoggle, he was incapable. But again, if they would have taken that $8 billion and put up 5,000 charging stations, right?
5,000 is still a minuscule number.
It's minuscule, right?
Yeah.
But it's definitely better than 7. But if they would have put up 5,000 charging stations, that would have had more of effect to get EV cars on the street than you telling people to buy EV cars, because you create convenience.
Have you seen the EV stations going up at all the truck stops, right? Every truck stop has 4 or 5 of them. When you pull in, take note.
It's a generator that's running them.
Well, not only that, take note. It's not EV cars parked in those places. It's just dudes with fucking Sprinter vans and all kinds of shit conveniently parked there, because most of them are by the dog place. The dogs are out running around and shit. It's just an empty parking space.
What people...
There's not cars there charging. We just built one here in town, right? Right at the Country Western. I think there's 2 or 3 charges. The guy that put it in got a ton of federal grant money.
Right.
And it cost him nothing to put that motherfucker in there. And they actually paid him. Right now in the state of Tennessee, you can get your solar system put up. Like, I can put a big-ass solar system on here. You have to pay for it. Right, they finance it out. You pay a little bit.
Right.
This fucking state gives you all that money back because of the feds. Like, you can almost put a system in right now, a big system. Like, there are companies in town right now putting these things up. It's not costing them a dime.
And the problem
because you have to be grid tied. They get your electricity back.
They get your electricity, so you don't get to keep any of your electricity.
You can have a battery bank. You can have batteries on there.
No, you can't.
So you cannot put a battery bank, or it is illegal. They just won't cover it in the financing and the federal grant money for it.
You can't.
Or it is illegal to go back and put batteries on it after the fact.
Those programs that are set up where you're getting federal grant money and all that
for your solar panels and shit.
For your solar panels,
for grid tie.
You have to be tied in.
Correct.
And you cannot store the power. You can't have like a trickle thing where half the power is going to the state and half the power is going in your. You can't do that.
How
you can't
would they
be
know?
tied in. From the meter. They're metering that power. They know they know exactly how much fucking power your solar panels are producing. Why? Why do they know that, John? Why do they know exactly how much power your solar panels on your house are producing?
Because they're smart meters.
Because they're selling it, right? So do you think that the power company's not going to be like, we got 10 kilowatts or whatever the fuck out of you yesterday, but today we're only getting 5. Of course they're going to fucking send somebody to your house because you have some sort of illegal storage device.
I don't think it's quite to that point yet. Maybe depending what grant money you use. But I know Nicole put solar on her house, battery system, everything. I don't think she's grid tied, and they still took, like, she's able to write it off of her taxes is basically what it is. She didn't get federal grant money for it.
But she paid for it all.
Correct. She did.
Yes. Yeah. So if you wanted to put solar panels in a battery connection here, you could do that. But you're going to pay for it all, not the fucking state, not the feds. You're going to pay for it all. And yeah, maybe they may give you a little taste at the end of the year on your taxes, but that's not going to cover the outflow that you had to put into to get that system. So,
but if we wanted a solar panel,
but here's the other thing: don't think for one fucking minute that if you put solar on your house, that if you spend the money and you put solar on your house that makes your house independent, that you can unplug your fucking meter.
Correct. Yeah. Correct. Yeah, you're still gonna, like, our meters here are $35 to have the meter per month, plus whatever the flow rate is, right? But if you used the grant money and we solar powered the entire roof, right? And they say don't put them on the roofs. Like the roofs, you're always going to have a leak at some point if you put them on the roof. They say put them on the ground, which takes a big footprint. That's why you're seeing them put them on the ground on poles and then using them for covered parking and stuff. You could have them, you could basically put all your solar panels in for free, buy batteries, and if the grid ever went down, you could just start using the batteries.
Again, though, you have to have which is not a problem here, but then you have to have an electrician that is going to look the other way when you're setting up your fucking system in order to be able to charge said batteries.
Correct. You just put a transfer switch in.
Because you can't do
just it. Just like you use the same transfer switch you use for a generator.
Yeah, but then...
Yeah, you have a box right here.
The issue there is the difference is this. It should be seamless in the sense that your batteries are being charged all the time. Your batteries are being charged all the time while you're using your electricity. But in order for you to get around the state, you're going to have to turn your outside power off at some point to charge your batteries.
No, you charge your batteries off the wall. Which is bullshit. You're still paying for it.
Now you're paying for it, right? You're defeating the purpose of what you're trying to do.
You're going to have, if you're not using those batteries, you're going to have a 1% draw per week or whatever.
And I would say this. Don't think for 1 minute that a state or local municipality would not treat your batteries the same way they treat a well.
Tell them what you mean by that.
Meaning that, you could be very cool and be living outside in the county on your well and your septic tank and your solar power, and then your local municipality decides they want to be a city. And the minute they become a city, they want everybody on city water, city power. They'll shut all that shit down. They'll make it illegal for you to use your own well. And your own power.
And what will they do? They will come in and they will fucking uncap your septic and fill it with concrete. Yeah. And they will fill your well with concrete. We saw them do it. We know people that this happened to in California.
So I would say that
there's got to be there's different programs, right? Yeah. Will it get to this point eventually? Sure, it will. As soon as they try to annex this area, you're going to get a lot of kickback and pushback from people here, especially just having the power off and having the water off, and nobody had water. But dudes with wells have water, right? A buddy of mine came and he's like, "Hey, I know it's a long shot. Do you have an IBC tote I can borrow?" I'm like, "Yeah, I absolutely do." And I go, "Where are you going to fill it up from? Like, I'd give you water, but my water's off too." And he says, my other buddy's got a well. I'm just going to go and fill it off as well. Totally cool. So, I mean, yes. Now, you can buy a Tesla Powerwall, and there is some grant money and tax advantages to that. And the Tesla Powerwall, Tesla guys come out, put your solar panels up, and your Powerwalls. I know a guy that I think he has 6 Tesla Powerwalls. And his whole system runs off of that. He still is grid tied. I don't think his electricity goes through the grid, but power does come into the building. It might be 2 separate systems, right? Like, we could have this shed on a Tesla Powerwall, And that shed over there is on city power, and we just never pulled power over to this building, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So there's ways to do it. But yeah, eventually it's going to get totally fucking incestuous.
Yeah, it's well, I mean, you take a look at California. When California was pushing solar, you got a check. You don't get a check anymore.
No, yeah.
Because SDG&E is a fucking multi-billion-dollar corporation, and because SDG&E is a multi-billion-dollar corporation, they paid off those assholes in Sacramento, and those assholes in Sacramento were like,
now
okay.
it is said they have enough votes to actually vote on succession of certain counties from California. You have the same thing going on in Washington and Idaho also. Washington and Oregon. They're saying out of all those liberal cities, less than 10% of the landmass of California is actually liberal, that votes liberal. All those people, all those votes are in those major cities. But landmass-wise,
California is actually really red.
Yeah.
But, you have these major metropolitans that can't function at all without the red mass providing what they need, and yet they vote against them. It's kind of crazy. I don't.
It's almost not like liberals that are producing food.
It's almost like if you don't produce the ends to the mean, you shouldn't have a vote.
Oh, I think that 100%. If you don't pay taxes, I don't think you should have a vote.
You should. I mean that.
If your money comes from government programs, I don't think you should get to vote. Which way are they voting?
Oh, for the government programs.
Always.
That's the point. The Democratic Party wouldn't exist because they need slave votes.
Yeah, it used to be landholders voted. Mm-hmm. Property owners voted.
What are you going to do?
Well, I think we know exactly what the answer is. I think you were rather close to it this last election. I think it just got prolonged.
It depends. It depends on what the final outcome of the Trump presidency is. If he can trim,
if he even does what he says he's going to do.
If he can trim, I don't think outside of them killing him, I don't think he's not going to do it.
What do you think the move with the Matt Gaetz thing was? Attorney General, right? He says Matt Gaetz. They say sex with a minor that the DOJ had apparently already investigated and said it was complete bullshit.
I don't know, because here's the thing.
So now he's appointed this female.
Trump would have already known this. Mm-hmm. Like this when you.
So you think it was pay attention to this and we're just going to slip this other person, and you think that was the plan?
Or they push Matt Gaetz front and center, right? They push Matt Gaetz front and center, and he's got a little shade in his past, right? He's got this thing, a little shade in his past. Trump now knows every single fucking
one that's going to go against him,
Republican that was going to vote against him. They whether it was bait or not, they took it and came out against him. So Trump now knows who those people are.
So the chick that he's putting in, the lady he's putting in, super pro red flag though. She voted for all the red flag
I don't care
laws.
about any of that. If the Democrats are going out and talking about how this person shouldn't be there, that person needs to be there. They actually MSNBC.
It's about to be
literally.
About to be
Doge
MSNBC.
To Doge MSNBC. But they literally did a whole segment about this lady that is going to be the head of the Department of Justice, right? They did a whole segment about her, and their argument on why she can't be confirmed. I want you guys have to think about this for just a second. Their argument was she cannot be confirmed because she's competent. She can't be confirmed because she knows how to do her job. That was their argument. Their argument was that she can't be confirmed because she's competent and she knows how to do her job. What the fuck? Like, the reality is the Democratic Party, I don't know what.
But that almost is all of politics.
I know that, when you think about it, the people that Trump is pushing forward are people who are competent in the thing that he wants to get done.
If you took all of these politicians, and put them on an island, and came back in a year, there wouldn't be any of them alive. None of them can survive in the normal world.
There would be some of them would be alive, and those that are alive you should immediately kill.
Explain that.
Because there would be some that would manipulate the entire group to the point where they could eat them all, and those are the ones that should immediately be killed.
But you take these politicians. Same thing with. Same thing with wealthy kids, right? We knew some super wealthy kids. Some of the MTV crew, right? Some of those dudes. We knew, like Sean Lennon and some of those guys. They exist in a world that only exists to them. When you put them out amongst the normal people, they have no idea how real growing up was. Kids that grew up with money, all these wealthy elite people, their perception of how things are versus how things are at their house is very, very different, man. Like, remember Hunter, right? Hunter would bring all those, my friend this and my friend that, and we'd be at a restaurant waiting for them, and they're a fucking hour late, right? And we're there to meet this party of 12 or whatever, and the restaurant doesn't even fucking know they're coming. That's a typical, they have no fucking clue. And if you took them and put them here in this little town and their water went out, they would fucking call a helicopter to bring, like they can't survive in the normal world with normal people. And that's all of your politicians. They have no fucking idea what normal life is.
Or they're very good at manipulating the people that are living normal lives, right? Because, like, the reality is, you think about what the Democratic Party did this election is they manipulated their entire voter base. They lied to them every single day. They lost. Not by a little bit, not by a lot, by a fucking ton. They got shellacked. And the whole time, their fucking machine was saying that she was going to win. Okay? The whole time. Now, she lost. She's $20 billion in the hole, or $20 million in the hole. Maybe.
Everybody that seemingly supported her has fled the country and is in hiding over the Diddy shit.
I just recently heard that it might end up being $1.5 billion in the hole. She had to pay MSNBC hosts in order to do those interviews. She had to pay Oprah Winfrey. She had to pay Beyonce to come out.
What did she pay them? $100,000 to show up. How long were they there? 5-10 minutes.
She had to pay. Now, again, these are people telling you that you have to vote for the Democratic Party, and they wouldn't even support her for free. She had to pay these people. And then what happened? She lost, and all these people are fleeing the country. They're all fucking leaving. Now, you could say it's because of Diddy and Epstein. That's the reason why they're fleeing the country, because for some reason they all cross-pollinated and went to the same parties.
What do you think it is?
Well, the reality is that it was a coward's, the Democratic Party is a coward's venue. Did Trump support, when Trump lost the last election, which he shouldn't have lost, which he probably didn't lose, did Trump supporters leave the country? Did they leave? No. They went to the Capitol building. But the Democratic Party, their leadership is all fleeing the country. Their supporters are all, their rich supporters are all fleeing the country, which tells you that they don't really believe in anything that they were saying.
And think too, like when we say they're fleeing the country, Oprah Winfrey didn't just leave the United States and pack all her shit.
No.
Like she has estates other places. Same with Ellen DeGeneres.
Yeah.
Ellen DeGeneres didn't shut down her apartment and have her shit flown over to fucking wherever she is. They already have those estates there.
What they're doing
they're on vacation there right now.
What they're doing, what they are trying to do is be like, whoa, look at me. It's like when Whoopi Goldberg, when Whoopi Goldberg's on The View and she's like, I can't afford to pay my bills either. I can't afford to.
Really? You're maintaining 400 pounds.
Yeah, shut up. You are not. You don't live the same life that 99% of the rest of America does. You have no fucking idea. When your biggest complaint is you can't get a goddamn eclair on your birthday, you just got no fucking.
Yeah, she made that all racist, right? The place was shut down. Like they.
No, you know. But you know what? I will hand it to her.
Whoopi?
I will hand it to her. She didn't make it racist.
Who made it racist? Somebody did.
Nobody did. She didn't make it racist. she made it political, because when she said they didn't serve me, the normal Whoopi would have been like, because I'm black. But she didn't. If you listen to what she says, because I don't think they like my politics.
Well, they were closed. Like the whole.
Well, no,
process.
the boilers were out.
Yes.
The thing that they told her was true. So now the interesting thing about that is now that bakery has made more money, off of.
And why is
than
that?
she would have
it's
ever.
Because they defended themselves. The owner of the company, that the dude and the female came out. I think.
Yeah, you don't need to be afraid of. You don't need to be afraid of wokeness. You don't, especially now. You don't need to be afraid of it.
You know who Robbie Starbuck is?
No.
He's a podcaster, YouTube guy, and he's the one going through all the DEI stuff. He's the one that made all the Tractor Supplies doing all this woke bullshit. John Deere is going out to Mexico, and they're doing all this fucking gender fucking shit. He's the one breaking all that out. He just broke out that Walmart had fucking like $3 trillion or some bullshit, tons and tons of money they were doing, and they had this whole DEI program. Walmart found out that he was about to break this story, got a hold of him, and they're like, hey, we're removing our name from this thing. We're not taking any financing from that the world program or whatever. The Davos group was basically pushing all this shit, and that's where all their future financing was coming from. They're removing their name off of that ranking system. They've canceled their whole DEI program. Good. They've canceled all their gender classes. Walmart shut all that shit down.
Good.
They're removing all of the kids' toys that have anything to do with gender, all the children's chest binding and all that shit. They're removing all of that shit. They came out and they're like, hey, basically, I'm sorry we got caught. Don't fuck us up. Black Friday's right here. We need the fucking normal American people to spend money.
Unfortunately, that's what you have to do. Mm-hmm. Like, the reality is, unfortunately, you have to show those CEOs, because the reality is, you think about the Waltons, right? The 11 kids of the Waltons.
Are they even involved in the company anymore?
Yes, I do believe that it's still all in private hands.
So they sent all their kids to fucking Harvard and Yale and all these fucking all these colleges that have been overtaken. Yeah, and then wonder what the fuck happened to their kids.
The reality is they have no idea. They have no idea what the market. Like, you have to look at it. Well,
that's what I'm saying. That goes back to the elite have no idea what the normal fucking people live like.
No, of course. All they're trying to do is manipulate a certain outcome. And so you have this, when you talk about DEI, the way they did it was manipulating money, not creating like the crazy thing is they weren't creating safe spaces for anybody. What they were doing was saying, if you put this flag up and you pretend that you give a shit about this stuff, we're going to give you money. That's all they were doing. They weren't doing anything. Now, like the executive for Jaguar saying he's got 12 DEI groups. They're never going to make a car again.
Nope. Did you see the commercial?
Yeah. They're never going to make a car again.
Pause for a second. Is that the same one?
Mm-hmm.
Who makes that?
You said it, Beyond Clothing.
Is that who it is?
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think about... So Trump's cabinet, you think that was part of the whole deal?
Mm-hmm.
You think that was the plan all along?
I mean,
draw them out, see who's against you.
I don't know if that was the plan all along, but it sure does seem like... It sure seems like Donald Trump is playing chess while everybody else is playing checkers.
Let's hope so.
We'll see.
On the other hand... Kamala Harris and Biden couldn't get any patriotic people to support them or follow them into war.
Well, no, because
whereas Trump, most patriotic people are definitely for Trump, and would rally right around going to war for Trump. You don't think maybe that's part of it? Is Trump really part of the actual deep state? Maybe.
No,
I hope not.
No, he's not part of the deep. No, the reality is
fix that. Get that off of there. How did that even happen?
The reality is they, he's not part of the deep state because they spent 6 years trying to
Kill him.
to get rid of him, and they tried to assassinate him. So no, he's not part of the deep state. Or you would again think about it. Who supports Kamala Harris? The IRS, the Department of Defense. The deep state is the one that's behind the Harris-Biden campaign.
So 70 days. We got 70
Trump.
days.
70 days.
Think he makes it?
I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know how desperate. I don't know how desperate the Department of Defense or the conglomerate of defense is to keep this war going on in Ukraine. I don't know how desperate they are. Like they literally, because let's get something straight. Everybody's going to point the finger at Biden, but Biden didn't authorize them to use ATACMs. He didn't authorize
Right. He didn't
them.
even know they had them.
He didn't authorize them.
Yeah, they keep saying. It's funny right now because they keep saying Biden, but the last fucking 6 months, everything's been Kamala Harris, Kamala Harris.
But even still.
So nobody speaks her name any longer. Now we're back to Biden.
Even still, he didn't authorize it. And when you think about it.
And if he'd have come out on television and said absolutely not, they'd have still done it.
And when you think about it, those missiles were already sitting next to the launchers. Because he didn't go, yeah, you can use the ATACMs. And then some Air Force guys put it on a C-17 and flew them over to Ukraine, and then those fucking things were already ready to go.
Yeah, I keep hearing they had to have our satellites to use them. They had to have U.S. satellites.
Well, I mean, the reality of what that probably means is, is once the Biden administration said it's a go. So once the administration said it's a go, some Air Force dude went, the code is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And they just put it in the ATACMs or the launch system and launched it. It's not like there wasn't an Air Force guy in some desert outpost in the United States with a joystick going, oh, I got to fly this. No, it's just a code. It was just the authorization. It was just the authorization they need to fucking borrow our satellites. That's all.
I see people saying, or I saw something, they're like, man, RFK, Trump, all of these people are all in the same locations all the time, and that they think that that's very dangerous for them to be there. They could wipe them all out, with one strike or something.
Yeah.
One incident, right?
Yeah. One.
On the other hand,
one frozen Iranian and a car bomb.
On the other hand, what do you mean frozen Iranian?
Well, you got to have a patsy.
But frozen?
Yeah. So they can be like, oh, here's his finger.
Got it.
Boop.
Got it. I see what you're saying.
Look at that. It was the Iranians.
On the other hand, him being out public with his whole cabinet and everything, that's probably a huge part of what won the election as well. Just here he is, and he's talking to people and answering people's questions, and here's this fucking idiot that can't answer any questions.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think, the reality is if they made him a Trump mobile, like the Pope mobile, I don't think he would ride in it.
Mm-mm.
I think he, the reality of who Donald Trump is versus who any of these other politicians, any of them, is he really believes it. So is more important. That's more important than, I think, whether he lives or dies. He believes it.
And you have the Pope came out against Trump. I mean, wasn't that whole fucking...
Because the Pope's bond paid for. Forget about the Pope.
Yeah, all of them are.
The Pope is not the representative of the Catholic people anymore. So, but yeah, he believes it. So the reality is people are willing to look the other way on certain things, whether it's his infidelity or that he likes to grab pussy. I mean, what real man doesn't like to grab pussy? But we are willing to look the other way on those certain things because we believe that he really, really believes in America, which you can't. Here's the thing: you can't find and he's been a very public figure for a long time. You can't find him talking bad about America.
No.
The
people taking issue with anything he's done, they've all done it themselves. Every fucking one of them.
Well, to a certain extent, they've been worse. I mean, the reality is they've been worse, right? They've been worse. You got, The only reason why Beyonce was fucking. The two reasons why Beyonce talked for.
They had her on the Diddy list and the Epstein list.
They got her on the Diddy list. They got her on the Diddy list, and they paid her $1 million.
And the Epstein list.
That's great. You know, when you think about it, right? When you think about all these celebrities that are leaving, okay?
Every one of them.
Celebrities are leaving. Right now, the Democratic Party, or let's just say liberals in general, they hold the keys to those things. They hold the keys to the Epstein videos, the Diddy videos. They hold the key. And so if you're Oprah Winfrey and you were providing underage girls to both Diddy and Epstein, I don't know about Diddy, but she definitely was doing it for Epstein. If you are in that circle and you are doing those things that people would frown upon, and the Democratic Party has those things,
but about to lose power,
and you go, and the Democratic Party is like, hey, all you have to do is do what we say, and we are going to protect you.
Oh, if we win.
We're going to protect you.
If we win.
Right. Well, the assumption was they were going to win, right?
But they were going to do anything at all costs to make that happen.
And so now that you've lost,
and against all odds,
and Trump has said he's going to make those things public, you have to flee the country.
How can you make them public and not have a prosecution for those crimes?
Well, that's the thing. If you have a DOJ that is willing to prosecute crimes, you know, there's a crazy thing.
I think what you're going to find is the DOJ was complacent in all of it. They were all part of it. All of those.
Wait a minute. So again, yes, we talked about this before.
Yep.
The Department of Justice
is really the blackmail and fraud department. That's why the FBI confiscated all that stuff, and we never heard anything about it again because they were using that information against influential people within the U.S. to get them to do their bidding, which happens to be the bidding of the Democratic Party. Now, the FBI don't give two shits about the Democratic Party. The FBI cares about the dollars and cents that come into the Department of Justice. It just so happens that most of those people that are currently working in there are liberal Democrats. And so it's in their best interest to fucking, push that agenda and not have Trump become in office, because they're crooked. That's all. They're all crooked. It's been tainted. The Obama administration tainted all those organizations, and so they need a good house cleaning, period. It's just the way it is. They're going to be able to clean house.
Does Trump take office in 76 days or 70 days? I mean, if he gets in office and is able to manipulate those 5 rhinos that don't want to vote his way, if he gets in office and he's able to get his people confirmed, house is going to get cleaned. Now, how clean? Who knows? Because it's deep. Like I feel like the reality is, and there's 100% of what I'm going to say, there are thousands probably of FBI agents who come to work every single day, who are impartial in the way they execute their job, and who uphold the law. But the barrel is tainted. The barrel is tainted. There's fucking moldy apples all throughout that barrel. So do we take the time to pick out all the moldy apples and be like, this one's not bad, it looks all right, maybe we should keep this one? I mean, I feel like that they need to fire everybody.
Every FBI agent?
They need to fire everybody. Everybody in the Department of Justice should be fucking fired, and then they need to start from scratch.
How long would it take to restaff that?
I don't know.
And would we notice it? If the FBI was shut down for 12 months, 18 months, 24 months, would the average U.S. citizen even fucking care?
Average citizen wouldn't notice it at all. Because the reality is most of the crimes that those guys are prosecuting don't have anything to do with your day-to-day life.
You think the ATF's getting shut down?
No.
Do you think anything's going to change?
Yes. But here's the thing. There's a lot of things that are going to happen over the course of if Trump is allowed to have a 4-year presidency where he's able to able to
You mean
push his
by they
mandate.
don't assassinate him or something?
Meaning he
happens
doesn't get
to him?
assassinated. We don't end up in nuclear war. If he's able to, if he is able to do his mandate that he has told everybody he's going to do, and RFK is able to fucking clean up food, and if they're able to do the things they do, on the other end, we will be better off. America will be better off. Even if he's only able to do 10% of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we will be better off. Because there is a level of corruption. There is a level of corruption in Washington, D.C. now where they believe they can get away with anything.
Well, they have been.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
What do you think about Trump saying first day of office, no transgenders in the military?
No big deal. No big deal. There's not going to be a... There's not going to be a...
How many actually are there? Like, how many do you think there are?
There's more than you think, but here's the thing.
But they don't do real things.
Here's the thing. There's more than you think, but there's less than matters, right? So you're not... Again, the only focus should be readiness to fight wars. That's it. Unfortunately, because of the medication and things that they have to take, they're non-deployable. So, and that goes for, here's the thing, that goes for anybody, right? If you're a diabetic and you're in service, non-deployable.
How are you even in the service as a
Well,
diabetic?
you can get diabetes while you're in service.
But aren't they starting to process them out? They can't have a career at that point, can they?
It depends on where they're at. So I am sure that Miley was a diabetic because he's been overweight for fucking 10 years, 15 years. He has not met Army standards for height and weight. I'll bet it's been longer than that. I bet he hasn't met Army height and weight standards for 20 years. So, bye.
Do you think Miley should be able to be in there in that state of unhealthiness when they're gonna reprimand and punish a lower ranked person for that?
That is kind of the point of having the current pick for Secretary of Defense is what you need to do is ensure that everybody is towing the same line.
Who does he have picked for Secretary of Defense?
Fox and Friends. What's his name? Hedgegrove or Hedge.
Okay.
Who is actually a U.S. Army officer.
Interesting.
He's two of the biggest schools, graduated from two of the biggest schools in the United States. He's not just a host on Fox. He knows exactly what he's doing.
So are you hopeful?
I think we're in a more precarious position than we were before. Because you have this, like, the reality is, at no time in history, if you look back at history, at no time in history was the time a president was elected till the time he took office ever a big deal. It never meant anything. Like, that was basically when the new president gets elected, that was basically when the old president was packing up his suitcase and fucking pulling the pictures off the wall, and, you know, the Clintons were stealing stuff out of the Lincoln room. That was the time when they were doing that shit. But you now have a legacy, a liberal legacy that understands that it's fucking dying on the vine. It's backed into a corner. It doesn't matter if they start World War III. Because they're going to blame it on Biden, who will probably be dead within 2 years. Right? They're going to blame it on Biden anyways. And Trump can't do anything about World War III. I mean, I don't know. It
seems like
I'm not calling him a miracle worker, but I don't think if nuclear weapons are, if people start using nuclear weapons in the European theater, that there's anything that we can do outside of fucking nuclear retaliation.
Which we might or might not do.
Under a Trump presidency.
It seems like Trump has more power than Biden does.
I would hope. Okay. We think so.
Correct. You're right. Because where do we get it from? We get it from media, right?
We think so.
And media, Biden says nothing worth reporting, and Trump says all kinds of stuff.
Well, we think so because those legacy media platforms are dying. They don't have anything to do but rattle their sabers. It's like, did anyone know when Biden was elected that he was going to bring somebody into his cabinet who was a fucking weirdo who likes stealing people's luggage? Did anybody know that? Like, the reality is, if they would have vetted his cabinet like they're vetting Trump's cabinet, that dude never would have been in that seat. Never would have been in that seat. There's no way they could have put him in front of the public and been like...
Is that guy in custody right now?
Probably not. No, probably not. You don't... when you're in the Democratic Party, rules are not for thee. They are for those. They don't follow. It's no different than his press secretary getting pulled over for DUI and getting an escort back to the White House. They don't. They are allowed to fucking break the rules. They don't enforce it, and they like. Think about it, John. When that dude in a dress was finally released, that was the second time he stole luggage.
So there's actually. I think there's like...
And if he got caught twice...
There's like 20, 30 times.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, though. If he got caught twice, if we know about twice, then he had done it multiple times. I mean, and you think about it, the only reason why he got in trouble is because he was wearing that...
publicly.
He was wearing that designer's clothes. She's like, that's my shit.
There's only one of them. Yeah, I made them with my hands.
And that's the only reason why he got in trouble. Even though he was committing a fucking felony.
So what do you think about all the Alex Jones stuff right now?
That's I know people are like Alex Jones. Alex Jones is a sideshow.
So the judge.
Yeah, I know.
You know about all that.
They did. There were some shenanigans.
Sold it. Yeah. Another judge said no, this is not going to happen.
Yeah.
Somebody came in, said, "Hey, we're shutting the studio down." He goes, "Where's your warrant? Where's your paperwork?" They didn't produce any. And they took custody of that studio. He said, that studio's not even viable. We have a brand new studio. This needs revamping. It's all old equipment. But it was all just horseshit.
But would you think that Alex Jones would have done that on purpose?
No, I think he did.
Like,
I see.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like for example, let's just say that this particular thing was going on the Pulling the Thread podcast, that the federal agents were going to take over Pulling the Thread podcast. And you built a brand new $1 million studio over there. And you knew that they were going to come confiscate all your shit. Wouldn't we be doing the podcast in this building?
Right.
Right.
Yeah, I see
right.
What you're saying, yeah.
So the thing that's going on with Alex Jones, though, is the way they sold it.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, the way they sold it. Yeah. So I don't know. It's sideshow shit. I don't care, because Alex Jones is going to be fine. He's already, he's already has his route out of that.
You think My Pillow guy's coming back?
Well, I mean, the My Pillow guy never left, really.
Well, but they took him out of Bed Bath & Beyond. By the way, yeah. Bed Bath & Beyond is closed. They're all closing. They're all going out of business now. But you hear them pushing it on Tim Pool. I mean, I would think that on this day, nowadays, in this current environment, Tim Pool's probably way bigger than Bed Bath & Beyond.
Maybe. Or I'm hungry.
You starving? Mm-hmm. All right, guys, that's the Pulling the Thread podcast. We're going to go and do the Patreon Q&A. I saw that there was a ton of questions on Patreon, so we're going to do that. If you're a member over there, thanks for supporting. If you're a member here, thanks for supporting. Then we're going to do a live. It is currently 1 o'clock, and our Wednesdays have grown longer and longer. We're to the point where we almost need 8 hours just to get everything done Wednesday. So, SOE Tactical on Patreon. Thank you for being a member here on YouTube. If you're listening to this months after the fact and it seems like this happened a long time ago, it's because it did. It comes out to members only for the first several months. SOEparty.com. We're having a party December 7th. If you're a member, you're hearing this now. And if you're hearing this after the fact, you missed a great one. So watch for the next one.
And if you're in your basement writing out Nuclear Winter when you finally hear this, I hope it entertains you.
Yeah. Have some water. Water's free. When your water runs out of the faucet, put it in some containers.